few passages. So, about analytics. So, if you're interested, where we were last time? Somebody help me a little bit. Book 6, am I? So, I think 7. 7 already? Okay. Yeah, 7. Sorry.
Can't quite remember which number we were on.
I think I'm able to find it. Let me just find the book first. Book 7. 7, 10, am I? We're going to do 7, 10, right? So.
Alright.
Let me read, then you know I start reading the translation for us. 子谓言远也，用之则行，舍之则藏。谓我与尔有是乎？子路曰：子行三军，则随与？子曰：豹虎凤和，食而无悔者，吾不与也。必也。临事而惧，好谋而成者也。Go ahead.
Well, it sounds like that might be 11 in our version, because 10 is
Okay, it
super
should be
short.
11. Yeah, we had different verses.
Alright, so I'll read 11 in ours here.
Okay.
The master said to Yin Yuan, only you and I have the ability to go forward when employed, and to stay out of sight when set aside. Sulu said, if you were leading the 3 armies, whom would you take with you? The master said, I would not take with me anyone who would try to fight a tiger with his bare hands, or to walk across the river and die in the process without regrets. And there's a note here on river. It says, in ancient Chinese literature, the river meant the yellow river. And it continues, if I took anyone, it would have to be a man who, when faced with a task, was fearful of failure, and who, while fond of making plans, was capable of successful execution.
Wow, that's a good one, huh? Okay, book 7. Maybe that. Mine is 7-11. It'll turn to almost quickly. So
Yeah.
it's crazy, huh? 7-11. The Lord told me 7-11. I said, this is 7-10. So crazy.
Interesting that version messes it up a little bit.
Yeah. That's crazy. The master remarked to Yan Hui, his best student, remember that? It is said, when he is employed, he moves forward. When he is removed from office, he holds himself in reserve. Surely this applies only to you and me. That's an interesting compliment. Yeah. So they were not shy to talk about self-complimentary things. Who told him that? Who, this is a private conversation or public conversation. Obviously, it was a personal conversation, but somehow the other people knows about it.
Yeah.
So think about the process. Okay, and nobody feel bad about it. They were recorded. I said, this is a wonderful thing. There's something we need to learn from this. Zilu, another brilliant student, interposed. They were talking all together in this one. Okay, so they were actually here together. So, if you, master, were to lead the 3 armies into battle, 3 armies, let me see. It's basically military in those days. They combine in different formations. To go from formation those days, fight with hand, not with a weapon in hands, right? So, or riding horses. So, oftentimes 3 is one at the front, one in the middle, one in the back. Okay, so sometimes I don't exactly know or the left, right, or the middle. So in different formation attacks. So, and that's my point. They travel, when they move forward, like marching forward, they will travel move forward, one at the front, one in the middle, one at the end, to protect, each other. When they attack, they will be left or right in the center. Making sense to you? So evidently, the commander is always in the center, so hopefully so. Let's see. The master replied, I would not want by my side the kind of person who would attack a tiger barehanded, or attempt to swim the Yellow River, which is a great river. Water is so deep and tempers that is where, and you're literally going to drown. Basically, it was so wide because he was willing to die without regret. Basically, a ruthless person, right? So, surely I would want someone who approaches such undertakings with a proper sense of trepidation, and who came to a decision only after having thoroughly considered the matter. Comments here, let me read. The first remark refers to virtue for timelessness, 10, responding flexibility and properly responding flexibly and properly to the situation with which one is confronted. Speaking his conversation with Yan Hui, as Kong Anguo puts it, that is a commentator of this book laid down. It is the ability to advance when it's appropriate to advance, and remain still when it's appropriate to remain still. Okay. Evidently, this seems to be when they're talking about not merely, I think, is a political office. They're actually talking about being commander in an army to begin with. Okay, so Zilu is a general, literally a general, become a top commander of one nation. So, Yan Hui evidently, they were taught the 用者行，舍者藏. That means they were pretty good generals. And Zihui was a very, like a Pita, is a very temperate person actually. So he's very rash actually. So Yan Hui is very settled, very thoughtful. So Confucius is facing these two different personality. They're all interested in military affairs, discussing military affairs, how to be a general in a sense. Sounds crazy, huh? Yeah, but those days, in order to manage the politics, defend the nation, the part of the education you had to go through. So evidently, Confucius was teaching more than this general principle, always teaching to remind the two persons to temper them differently. He was commending Yan Hui as a pair student to Zilu, said, hey, you can be a good, you're suited for anything in the army arrangement. If you can be used, you are able to do this, to lead the charge or be the commander. Or if you don't, you can just, be one of the soldiers, one of the ones that are useful. I'm not this later on interpreted as if they're going to go to have an office in the court or not, in the nation or not. Maybe apply, I'm thinking more the context here, the three of a guy was talking about how to command an army, how to make yourself useful in a campaign, like in the army arrangement. Making sense to you in the battle. So that's the Lord asked you. Then who, if we are not going to lead, I'm the commander now. So I want to lead. I'm not just up to whatever happened to me. I will just be it. So in the army, I want to lead. Then who is going to go with you? What kind of soldiers, what kind of people are going to lead with you? What I hear is leading is not lead, is rather who going to counsel you, who going to be your counselor, who going to give you advice. So Master said, because Zulu is a word tempers, is like to into battle, he's a warrior. And he fight, he literally fight. He protected, literally died because he tried to protect people literally. So he said, I don't want a person to fight a tiger without thinking about it because the tiger is strong, right? Or cross a very dangerous river without ever thinking about you're gonna get drowned, and just don't worry about it. Just go ahead, do it. Basically, we're thoughtless, which is a lose temper. He said, "I surely don't want you." Basically, so it's understanding, very personal, He says, "Lou, you got to change, you got to change." And I want someone in the process sometimes taking trepidation, be thoughtful, be fearful. You're not going to be ruthless. A lot of lives and at stake. A lot of interests attached to winning games of war. It's not your personal courage going to do the trick. So, anyway, let's move on with the comments here. Such a sensitivity to the context of effortless grace is the hallmark of accomplished gentleman. Interesting. We're talking about the gentleman, different set of understandings. Most likely, Confucius' comment was intended not only to praise Yan Hui, but also indicate to Zulu the areas in which he might best develop himself morally. Zulu missed the point, though, presumably jealous of his praise for Yan Hui. He tried to win approval from the master for his own characteristic reckless courage. Of course, it is precisely Zulu's recklessness that the master tried to rein in with his initial statement, and so the master is forced to explicitly reprimand him. So I'm not reading differently, huh? Yeah, so later commentators. The next one, Elaji read the translation. Okay, so 子曰：“夫而可求也，虽执鞭之事，无以为之；如不可求，从无所好。” Go ahead.
The master said, "If wealth were a permissible pursuit, I would be willing even to act as a guard, holding a whip outside the marketplace. If it is not, I shall follow my own preferences."
One thing I'm missing is actually you guys comment. Let me read the translation, the comments here, then let you comment, okay? So 7:12 says, the master said, if wealth were something worth pursuing, then would have pursued it, even if that meant serving as an officer holding a whip at the entrance of the marketplace. Since it is not worth pursuing, however, I prefer to follow that which I love. Now, holding a whip entrance of the marketplace means being a very meaningful officer, trying to maintain the order, So those days, at the entrance of the city, they don't have a city in Malay. So when they enter the city, it requires some examination, whatever. So you discipline. Also, people just rush into it, Because they have a certain date to open and then close it, because those days, different nations had a war, so they had to keep the door shut in order to safely give a certain time frame for people to go in and out. And so when that moment comes, everyone rushing or everyone want to get out, whatever the cause of it. So whatever you have oftentimes have a soldier stationed there to examine you, also maintain the order, making sense to you? So I don't exactly know. I just imagine our culture and attach that imagery to here. So comments here is this one. Elijah, why don't you read this one? Then we have a Noah comment on this one.
Which one?
Mm-hmm. This is the portion of the comments.
Okay. Again, we have an idea that the gentleman does not pursue externalities. Some commenters see this passage as a comment on fate. Wealth cannot be pursued because it is an acquisition, because its acquisition is subject to fate. As in 7:16, however.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This my attached wrong information there. A marketplace is definitely a trading process. It's like people rushing to buy something, So I mean, I don't know what's the deal. So basically, a whip is a guy some try to keep order things, you know. So I don't exactly know, because that means the rich people selling something, doing something, everybody want a piece of it. Someone had to maintain the order, so he's a whip. I mean, you have to understand it's not a modern day culture here today. It's, you know, those days there are slaves, all kinds of different culture settings. We don't quite understand. On the one side, however, being a merchant interested in trading is pay attention to money is not necessarily highly honored and regarded in those days. You know, the people are not supposed to be concerned with wealth. You know, so Confucius said, no problem. If it's really going to make me rich a little bit, I would like to be the one, like the, you know, to serve those merchants, which have a low standing in those days, you know, so they're not gentlemen, they're the merchants. Interesting, we just read that, right, in the book, Gordon speaking about the beginning of the colonial areas before the revolution. In this nation, the same kind of a social connotation carries, right, so it's the same thing, you know, so go ahead.
However, there seems to be more of a normative edge here. The acquisition of wealth is indeed subject to fate, but is also in itself an unworthy object of pursuit. The point here is much more about rightness than fate.
Speaking about permissible, okay, permissible means it's not going to diminish what it means for you to be a gentleman, you know, to pursue the morals or standing of your life. Comments on that one? So I only hear no one's. So the two of them. Whether being the one concerning how to deal with positioning yourself in a war, or being a pursuit of wealth, Confucius begin to narrow down very practical aspects of life. Making sense to you guys? So yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered the previous one pretty well. I don't have anything additional to add to that one. I'm still trying to grasp the second one here that we just covered.
He was talking that if wealth is worth to be pursued, it's okay to be pursued. He will do something about it, even if it means minimal or disrespectful, disrespectful position in life. You know, he said, if I cannot do that, I can't really earn money from the things what I'm doing. I will do what my heart following. So in a sense, Confucius is very practical and realistic with life. He's just saying wealth is a necessary sustenance of life, a guarantee of a good way of life, right? So if you have a way to make it wealth and be acquired, do something about it, you know. So I'm not saying follow his advice in our situation. But the other thing is that if there's no way for you to do that, no opportunity afford to you in life, you just have to be settled with it and do what your heart led you to do, you know. So making sense to you, you know. So do what your heart feel good to do. Get married, start a family, things that don't let those pursuit of wealth dominate as a pursuit of your life, basically, you know, to enjoy your life. Enjoy your life, basically. Enjoy the Lord of your life. I think that's what that meant.
Yeah, I have, maybe it has no particular significance, but just the example he used of a guard holding a whip outside the market, it doesn't seem like merely a random example to me. It seems like it may have some kind of deeper meaning. I don't know.
Yeah, has to do with the history attached to it. However, this didn't give much practical context to it. So when I offer to you, I understand. So yeah. I don't really know. So yeah. Whip those days, more somebody is an enforcer, somebody maintain order. So
Right.
yeah. Okay, 7. Is that okay for me to move on?
Yeah.
This stage. Okay, 7.12. Mine is your 13. 子之所慎，在战计在民者。Go ahead. How about you read?
Fasting, war, and sickness.
And this word as well in the
The
comments.
things
Okay.
over which the master exercised care.
Mm.
And it says here similarly, when it came to fasting, war, and illness, the master exercised caution.
Caution there, extremely care, right?
Yeah.
Extremely reverential.
And it says here,
Go ahead,
Sorry.
comment, sir.
the significance of this passage is not entirely clear. Most commentators understand fasting to generally refer to the abstinence practiced before a sacrifice to the spirits, which included physical fasting as well as mental preparation. The mention of war is a bit odd, although some think it may be a reference to 7:11, which we just read, an injunction against the sort of rashness displayed by Zilu. The best way to make sense of cautiousness regarding illness is perhaps to connect it to 10.10, where the master refrains from tasting medicine given to him as a gift because he is ignorant of his properties. Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those days, treating years wrongly can literally kill you. Right? Not like today's, you have convenience for diagnosis, all kind of expertise. Those days, few knows how to treat illnesses. The wheel of medicine is not well developed. The second thing, the kind of illness, some can be only affect your person, but some, like in the Bible, caution many measure taken is because they can spread around very fast, like a pandemic, right? So there, you don't want smallpox to ruin the whole land, right? So like happens. So what you do is just need to be very cautious with our deal with, especially in the illness, what is contagious illnesses. War, as we know, you don't want to fight a war without carefulness. Now, Confucius is not one that not leading a war, actually command war or win a war. So he knows what it means to lead an army, okay? So we're a person, he have a lot of achievements, not necessarily just talking. He literally done it, okay? And successfully done it. So the second, the first one is called Zai. Zai means fasting. Now you don't do fasting without occasion. Normally it has to do with a national celebration or ritual setup. So when you do fasting, it's not that you're personal doing it. You're doing it in a congregational setting, in a national setting, and especially you do it after somebody passed away. In order to express your sorrow, those days, a lot of people die, right? So mortality is very low. So especially if a close one or someone dear to you to pass, or somebody important in society pass away, you're going to have the fast in that kind of settings, right? So the nation going to hold the fasting if a king died, for example. So what do you do in those days? You have to stop doing things and do fasting, right? To fast for that occasion. Confucius obviously is very cautious about that. He's very meticulous about that, because that's the way how you show reverence, build a sense of respect and honor in the society. So he actually had one statement to say, if somebody died, you might want to show extreme respect to him, because you respect is reflection about how you deal with the one who alive, right? If you treat others with the dead with a great honor, that means you attach a lot of value to a person, right? So to a lot of value to that relational dynamic that person has imagined in his life. So it's a good way to remind everybody in life, that your life will carry weight, so you are respected, you needed, you're important to others, so more than affirm your value of life, will also give you a sense of restraint, right? So you don't just do things your way, so on the other side, if those things are positively, healthily, wonderfully developed, that's great expression of your life, and great joy of your life. You're respected, you're cherished, you invest your life for others. So it's those things being highlighted and rehearsal, if you refreshed, especially when somebody passed away, somebody you want to honor him. Go ahead, you have some comments. Why you smile? You don't have any thoughts? Why you smile? No. I'm joking. That's interesting, huh? So he has three things. He paid extreme attention to it, and that means extreme attention is more than just apply to yourself. He literally had to be the center, a composure, a restraint to everybody, right? So whether dealing with that, he might be the one carried out, so other people around to carry it out in terms of fasting. When he leading the war, he want to make sure everybody work with him or prepare for the war with great care, right? So second, the last one is dealing with illnesses. Illness whether have a long impact on your own health, someone's health. It's respect for life, right? Especially when it's dangerous, contagious, So what do? You just, he said, don't do foolish things. Don't treat lightly. You want to take every precaution. So that being said, so those things in general, most of the affairs commanding assigning weight of decisions, weight to carry yourself, but it's also the whole essence is the respect for life, to honor life. Don't treat life as like this, like a whipper, right? So I'm not saying that attach too much to it, but respect the life, cherish life, honor life, right? So, and go ahead. Next one. What is the next one? Okay, 7:13. 子在其温少，3月不知肉味，曰不图为乐，只至于斯也。Okay. No one. Elijah. Go ahead. No one to read this word. Mm-hmm.
The master heard the show in Qi for 3 months. Did not notice the taste of meat he ate. And for 3 months he did not notice the taste of meat he ate. He said, I never dreamt that the joys of music could reach such heights.
Yeah, it said the music is Sung. I think Sung is a descendant of, direct descendants of Ying Chao. I'm not quite sure. Okay, it's inherited a certain kind of music. Basically, it's a wonderful music. So passed on, through generations. Shao Yue. Shao, I think actually is the king we're talking about. So from those times.
It gives a reference in that same note to 3:25, where it says the master said of the Shao that it was both perfectly beautiful and perfectly good.
Yeah, exactly. So Shao is a chord music. Okay, this is not just a personal instrument. It's like a symphony. So go ahead.
It says here.
Now you understand those days don't have movies, transmissions, they can't record anything, so you can't really listen to the music until you are very well honored to meet to those occasions, and right, as I don't do it all the time. So you think about it from a person who just live there in those time, in those age. To listen to instrument, somebody good his instrument is already good experience. If we listen to a symphony on a very special occasion, that can be an overwhelming impact. And I remember those days I listened to I mean, man, imagine. Your dad lead me to listen to Les Miserables, so in LA. It was an overwhelming experience, not because merely the music, it's just the impact, the realness of the things, so that's one kind of performance. Go ahead, yes, so.
When the master was in the state of qi, he heard the Shao music, and for 3 months after did not even notice the taste of meat.
Ah.
He said, I never imagined that music could be so sublime. And the note here says, the Shao is the court music of the sage king Shun.
Shun? Oh, I have no idea.
S-H-U-N.
Okay, I must be wrong. Shun.
As in 6.7, we are probably to understand 3 months in the sense of a long time rather than literally. According to the history of the Han, one of the descendants of Shun, who was in Fieft, that's a weird word. Never seen that before. Who was in Fieft in the state of Qin, was forced to flee to Qi, bringing Shun's court music with him.
Ah, see, that's it. Yeah.
We see in this passage an association between music, joy, and forgetfulness that is also echoed by the graphic pun between the words for joy and music in ancient Chinese, which are both represented by a particular character, it says here. The joyous rapture inspired by sublimely beautiful music is one of the internal goods of the Confucian practice that frees the gentleman from the demands of externalities.
That's a good one. Okay. We're gonna finish the next two, okay? So just fast forward. So we're gonna read this time. So 7.14, that's 15. On your side is 15, right? So we're gonna finish this one. 言有曰：夫子为君乎？自贡曰：诺，吾将问之。入曰：伯夷叔齐何人也？曰：古之贤人也。曰：怨乎？曰：求人而得人，有何怨？出曰：夫子不为也。Go ahead. No, you read the translation and put up.
Shan Yu said, is the master on the side of the Lord of Wei? And there's a note on the same name down here. It says, in other words, Che, or Qi, known in history as the ousted Duke, son of Prince Kuai Kui, who was the son of Duke Ling. After failing in an attempt to kill Nan Su, the notorious wife of his father, Prince Kuai Kui fled to Qin. On the death of Duke Ling, Che came to the throne. With the backing of the Qin army, Prince Kuai Kui managed to install himself in the city of Wei, waiting for an opportunity to oust his son. At that time, Confucius was in Wei, and what Zhang Yu wanted to know was whether he was for Che.
It was a messy situation, so it's very hard to understand until you know the history a little bit.
Yeah. So continuing, Zhu Kung said, well, I shall put the question to him. He went in and said, what sort of men were Po Yi and Shu Qi? They were excellent men of old. Did they have any complaints? They sought benevolence and got it. So why should they have any complaints? When Zhu Kung came out, he said, the master is not on his side.
That's called an illusion, okay? So,
Yeah.
But these two persons are the ones that there was one dynasty, there were nobles from the old dynasty, and whose king was were corrupted, were bad, which ruled the kingdom. And when the new dynasty come around, they will try to be loyal to the old dynasty. So they escaped and into a mountain and starved themselves to death, basically. So they should respect the old family, which belonged to the old dynasty. I don't want to be a citizen of the new ones. So they also respect the new one because it's a good king, good new dynasty. So they understand, the old one meant to disappear. Yet they also feel obligated to be faithful to it. So the Jews basically starve themselves to death. This is what the story is standing. So in the end, Zigong asked him, these two guys, when they were starving to death in the remote mountain hill, whatever, are they complaining? But are they bitter in heart because the bitter end they encountered? Confucius said, no, I don't think so. They did what they think should be done. The heart must have peace, so they choose to die, basically. Now, they will be highly honored and cherished if they just said, we're going to be part of the new dynasty, because they were nobles those days. Nobles enjoy, if they were especially good nobles, they were friends, actually, of the new kings, so if my memory carries well. So, yeah. Go ahead, your comments there.
This version says, Ran Chu was wondering out loud, does the master support the Duke of Wei? The Duke of Wei, of course, refers to the current ruler of Wei, Duke Chu. Zigong replied, well, I will go ask him. He went in to see the master and said, what sort of people were Bo Yi and Shu Qi? The master replied, they were ancient worthies. Did they harbor any regrets? They pursued goodness and obtained goodness. What regrets could they possibly leave? Then Zigong emerged and reported to the other disciples, the master does not support him. And the notes here say, in 499 BCE, Prince Kuai Kui, son of Duke Ling of Wei, made a failed attempt on the life of Duke Ling's infamous consort Nanzi, and was forced to flee the country, abandoning his right to succession. In the summer of 493 BCE, Duke Ling died, and over the protests of Nanzi, his grandson Zi, son of Kuai Kui, was made ruler, assuming the title of Duke Chu of Wei. Kuai Kui, living in exile in the state of Jin, subsequently repented his former decision and began maneuvering to have himself installed as ruler of Wei. Kuai Kui's efforts were vigorously resisted by his son, who fought to hold on to power. Confucius at this time was staying in Wei at public expense and was in no position, from either a ritual or pragmatic perspective, to directly comment on the behavior of his host, Chu, which is why Zigong frames the question to him indirectly. Bo Yi and Shu Qi, mentioned already in 5.23, were both princes in the Shang state of Guzhou. When their father died, neither wished to take the throne over his brother, with the result that the throne remained vacant. Confucius's praise of these virtuous exemplars is understood by Zigong as an indirect criticism of the unseemly power struggle between father and son currently playing itself out in Wei. As Jing Xuan explains, this struggle between father and son for control of the state was a case of bad conduct. By praising Bo Yi and Shu Qi as being both worthy and good, Confucius is making it clear that he had no intention of aiding the current Duke of Wei.
Excuse me, yeah. What do you think about it? Oh, there is a quotation here actually. See, that's actually not wrong. Let me see. Bo Yi Shu Qi are brothers. It is the end of Shang dynasty. They were the subjects of a little kingdom in that of Guzu state. They have a sub kingdom, right? In those days, based on nations, and they forego their position in that kingdom and escaped. But they were, I don't know exactly. They were actually friend with the one who revolted. They were friend with him, and they were said, 不是州属 means they never become the officials, even their friend with the later king, the new king, they never become their subjects because they're faithful to the old kingdom. Now, with that, we're going to wrap it up.